That said, I got a paper. This is called When is that said yeah. So we're gonna try to go through this quickly because my internet's getting real flaky. But this is When is Company Unwelcome by Neil Levy in the Epistemic Journal. So this is a short paper. Fair warning: epistemology pisses the fucking hell out of me, so I may be angry. It's when the OBS, it's when it's Twitch, the OBS stream doesn't stop. Yeah, so I think it's on my side. That's right. So yeah, so maybe I'll be angry, but it's 10 pages double spaced. So this is kind of a response paper, but here we go. And as always, feel free to ask questions, and we'll review it at the end. We'll find out if this is any good. So, response paper time, go. In this journal, Joshua Blanchard has recently identified a problem he calls the problem of unwelcome epistemic company. We find ourselves in unwelcome epistemic company, at least typically, when we realize that some controversial belief of ours is shared mainly or mostly by, or most prominently by people we regard as abhorrent. Did I read this? I know this. Or did maybe I read the other one? I'm going to have to go look it up. Dag nabbit. So yeah, for anyone watching out there, I upload all my stuff to YouTube. Shut up, me. This is what is it? Neil Levy. Okay. I do not think I have read this one. Maybe let me go look at Blanchard. Maybe that's what I did the other one. Yeah, look at this. I've read the previous paper on this. This is a response paper to Philosophy Roulette 408. How do you like that? First time I actually remembered something like that. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so we read the problem of unwelcome epistemic company. I'm sure I was annoyed and I criticized it. Let's go see if I agree with what this person said, and we'll find out. Okay, we find ourselves in unwelcome epistemic company, at least typically, when we realize that some controversial belief of ours is shared mainly by, or most prominently, by people we regard as abhorrent. Yeah, so it's like you go find out you and all the Nazis tend to agree on this one topic. And you're like, well, maybe I don't want to be agreeing on this one topic with all the Nazis. So, like, that's the sort of thing. People who are skeptical about the value of masks to prevent respiratory illness, to use a topical example, might feel discomfort at the realization that this belief is most prominently espoused by fervent Trump supporters if they are opposed to Trump and his views. Blanchard argues that this discomfort is justified. Unwelcome epistemic company often provides higher order evidence against our beliefs. Okay, yeah, and I did not... That reminds me, I need to update the paper. Yeah, so there we go. Okay, good. Being responsible streamer. Yeah, so let me update here too, real fast. To my knowledge, Blanchard is the first to identify and discuss the problem of unwelcome epistemic company. His paper is therefore a significant contribution to epistemology. I aim to build on Blanchard's achievement. Okay, so this person likes him. Or is Blanchard, I don't know, unlikes them. I don't know who Blanchard is. Oh, it's a his though. His programmatic paper does not provide us with either a test for when company is unwelcome or with a diagnosis of what makes it unwelcome. Focusing on the defeaters of the sort that are central interest to epistemologists, alethic defeaters, alethic just means truth bearing, so like something's true or false, something like knowledge. Author will provide both. I will show that unwelcome company provides higher order evidence against the truth of our belief that P when it provides evidence that either our belief has the same content as a belief that expresses some of the properties that make our company unwelcome, or that it was formed by an unreliable process, or of course, both. Yeah, so you don't want to believe something if like really, really, really bad people believe that, and it's just like you and them, and you're like, well, I don't want to be with them, or that like or that it tells you some more information that like stupid people are believing this, and that's giving you information that maybe you fucked something up. And it's not that you're in crowd with them, you don't care about that, but the fact that stupid people are agreeing with you means that maybe you made a mistake somewhere. Okay. Need for a test. Worries about unwelcome epistemic company are familiar, often appearing in the form of an accusation. You know who else believes that? Yeah. As Blanchard notes, however, while the accusation is common, the fact that we have unwelcome company isn't always reason for concern about the normative status of our beliefs. Consider these cases. Blue Sky, refugees, and Hitler are rewritten cases borrowed from Blanchard. Others are the author's own. Blue Sky. She believes that the sky is blue. He subsequently reads that Osama bin Laden also believed that the sky is blue. Hitler. Arcady becomes a vegetarian to prevent suffering to animals. Her friends forward her a link to a blog post that alleges that Hitler was a vegetarian. Drug. On the basis of reading an article in Newsweek, Sheenan believes that a certain drug is an effective treatment for COVID-19. She subsequently discovers that Donald Trump has been promoting this drug for just this purpose, and his followers have enthusiastically endorsed it. Eggs. Lou argues that eggs should be stored in the fridge for longevity against the passionate advocacy for the pantry of his friends. Lou subsequently discovers that the leader of a local white supremacist militia shares his belief about eggs. Lockdowns. Joe believes that lockdowns to control COVID-19 are unjustified on the basis that the economic harms lockdowns will cause will result in a greater loss of life than the virus itself. But she is uncomfortably aware that this puts her in an unwelcome epistemic company. The great majority of lockdown skeptics are also vocal Trump supporters, and she has no sympathy at all for their views. Refugees. Corey believes that refugees commit more crimes than legal immigrants or those born in the country. He is upset to discover that this puts him in the company of white nationalists. Okay. Blanchard claims that Blue Sky and Hitler should not trouble those who find themselves in this unwelcome company. Yeah, so it's like if you think the sky's blue and some very bad person also thinks the sky's blue, you don't have to be too worried about that. But he doesn't provide an explanation for these judgments. We need such an explanation to be able to identify when company is troublesome and when it is not. We need such a test because there are hard cases in which our intuitions give us little guidance, and because there is a disagreement about even some of these cases, Blanchard takes to be clear. Should feminists who oppose sex work be concerned that they find themselves in the company of people whose conservative views they reject? Intuition does not provide us, or at any rate the author, with a clear answer to this question. Is Blanchard right in thinking that vegetarians should not be troubled by their apparent agreement with Hitler? Many vegetarians and vegans do seem to find it troubling. I infer from the fact that the most common response isn't to shrug off the bad company, but to deny that Hitler shared their belief at all. One advocate for vegetarianism went as far to write a whole book devoted to debunking the claim. That's kind of funny. Even if someone's really, really heinous, that doesn't mean they're like 100% wrong about everything. No one is like all wrong about everything. They wouldn't have been like completely, like Hitler was a very successful politician. He was evil, but like he was very good at like getting power in Germany. It's like he did that. It's the old like you can be impressed with someone and hate them. Like the sort of, I always like the Ollivander in Harry Potter series. He's kind of ambiguous. He's always very impressed with Voldemort. It's like, and Harry doesn't like him. He's like, that's creepy. But yeah. And it says some idiot who makes terrible music in Colombia said once that classical music is not all that great because Hitler liked it. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, this is what they're trying to argue against, but it's very silly that like people are getting offended. Like, oh wow, this evil person likes the same thing you do. It's like, yeah, it's like, it's good music. Like, so what? Like, they're not like completely, the evil person isn't completely like deformed in all their like faculties. It's not like they might like good music too, even if they're evil. So yeah. So this author thinks they're going to come up with a test, and that's going to help us solve this problem. I'm a little skeptical that there is such a easy test, but we'll find out. Towards a test. When does unwelcome company provide higher order evidence against a shared belief? Blanchard treats unwelcome company as the mirror image of peer disagreement. In a peer disagreement case, the fact that my epistemic peer comes to, oh, this is why I fucking hate it. I hate peer epistemic peers. I was like, I knew I was going to be angry. I fucking hate peer disagreement. For anyone who doesn't know, and they'll probably tell you, peer disagreement is like, oh, you think there's some smart people out there, and they disagree with you, and you're like, well, they know just like I do. And the fact that they disagree with me means I should like be worried about what I know. My position on this is generally, fuck you motherfuckers. I work really hard to know the shit I know. I don't give a fuck who's disagreeing with me. The fact that they disagree with me don't mean shit. You give me a reason why you didn't disagree. Just because they're smart doesn't mean they had a good reason. A lot of smart people do stupid things. Don't give me this pure disagreement shit. If you have a good reason for disagreeing with me, let me hear it. I don't want the fact that you disagree with me don't mean shit to me. Yeah, well, thank you, Anne. But like, epistemology pisses me off, and I really don't like the fact that someone like purportedly smart disagrees with me. I don't care. Like, you have to give me a reason. The fact that you exist, that someone thinks you're smart, don't mean shit to me. Yeah, tell them how you really feel. It's like, yeah, okay. But this is why this is what happens when I get into epistemology. There's these topics that just piss me the fuck off. Like, no, just disagree with the entire existence of this topic. Okay, so author says, in a peer disagreement case, the fact that my epistemic peer comes to a conflicting conclusion to me is higher order evidence that at least one of us is mistaken. Yet they are mistaken. Many philosophers think that we should reduce our confidence in our beliefs in such cases. Yeah, this many philosophers, they can go like fuck themselves, whoever those many philosophers are. Because we have no more reason to think that our peer is mistaken than ourselves. No, this is exactly why I disagree. I'm not wrong unless you can give me a reason at this point. My knowledge is hard fought. Hard fought. And so I don't, just because someone disagrees with me, I don't. But you get the point, okay? In a disagreement case, the reliability of my peer provides me with higher order evidence of error. In unwelcome company, the unreliability of my company coupled with their agreement with me once again provides me with higher order evidence of error. Yeah, so you're thinking like, if they are a moron and they agree with me, maybe I'm being a moron in this one case. That's the thought about this bad company argument. Not all unwelcome company provides us with even prima facie evidence against our beliefs, but that too is something it shares with peer disagreement. If my peer dissents from my verdict that 2 + 2 = 4, I have evidence to question his sanity or sincerity rather than my arithmetic. I know people that can get around these things. They have to be very, very, very sophisticated. So either they are very, very, very smart or they're morons. But like, there is people on both ends. There are people on both ends. Cases like this motivate Lackey's influential justificationist view. Blanchard notes that we are often unable to invoke our justified confidence in our beliefs to dismiss unwelcome company. Perhaps Blue Sky is a case of this kind. Yeah, so it's like maybe their sanity is wrong. Like, if you don't think the sky's blue, like there's something like physically wrong with you, that maybe your eyes are damaged. Like, you can't see. You have I'm not saying color blindness is can't see, is that if they know they're colorblind, they wouldn't argue with you. It's that like all of a sudden they're saying, no, the sky isn't blue when you're looking at it. It's like, no, something's happened to you physically. You might need like a neurological exam at that point. Sindera says the art of propaganda lies in understanding the emotional ideas of the great masses and finding through a psychologically correct form the way to the attention and thence to the heart of the broad masses. Yeah. So you get them to think like, oh yeah, the president is like sent from God and can do no wrong. And then all of a sudden they, go into a war or whatever. So it's like, can you find what the masses actually will, find important? So yeah. But I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what the point of that Tyndaris was, but yes. Okay. Continuing. But unwelcome company may fail to provide evidence against a belief even when the agent lacks a particularly high degree of justified confidence in their belief. Consider eggs. Lou's belief is controversial and he knows it, that you should store eggs in the, fridge as opposed to like outside. I don't even know. It might well be controversial enough to be subject to confidence-lowering peer disagreement. That is to say, justificationism provides no shelter to it. Yeah, so there may not be some obvious fact of the matter like the color of the sky. Nevertheless, the unwelcome company he finds himself in does not provide him with evidence against his belief. Yeah. Why not? Here's the beginning of a positive proposal. Unwelcome epistemic company provides higher order evidence against a shared belief when the unwelcome company's belief is counterfactually dependent on the very properties that make them unwelcome. Okay, so if it has something essential about them being nasty people, then maybe you have to worry about it. Oh, it's from the author I mentioned. You just want to make a practical example? Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. Now I got you. Yeah, so we got some like terrible people, but they know about propaganda. So yeah. You'd expect them to know about propaganda. Like I said, It's the old, you can be impressed that some people did some very, like, huge things, but that doesn't make them good people. You don't have to, like them. But, you know, Hitler did run a country for a while. Maybe not well, but he did. Politically successful. At least, again, for a while. Okay. To see the attraction of this proposal, contrast eggs with lockdowns. Suppose the cases as similar as possible in their epistemic features. Both beliefs are controversial and known to be so to those who hold them. Suppose that Lou and Joe are each the only person in their group of friends who holds the belief. They're taken by each agent to be supported by the same proportion of relevant experts and are held to be justified to the same degree. Holding all of these other features fixed, we can isolate the effect of unwelcome epistemic company. Lou thinks you should store eggs in a certain place, and the same as a white supremacist does. I suggest, will not be concerned by his company, whereas Joe will be worried by hers. Plausibly, differences in whether their company's respective beliefs are counterfactually dependent on the very properties that make their company unwelcome explains the difference. Okay, because Joe was relying on Trump to get pandemic information when, like, he was, a little weird about, he had mixed signals about pandemic information. So the problem is, Trump was using pandemic misinformation as a political tool, whereas the white supremacist has no real stake in the matter about how to store his eggs. So that's the thing. If the information you're getting from the unwanted company has to do with what makes them so unwanted, because Trump was unreliable about safe pandemic information. All right. It is implausible that the properties, beliefs, vices, character traits that make the company of the leader of the white supremacist militia so unwelcome play an important explanatory role in why he believes that eggs should be stored in the fridge for longevity. The content of this belief is too far removed from these properties to play such a role. Matters might conceivably be different if he preferred white eggs to brown eggs. Okay, that's very funny, author. You get for making a not even good joke, but not a you snuck a joke into your paper and it wasn't the worst. I've told people this before. Unless you really know what you're doing, you only get one joke a paper. This person got a decent, a non-terrible, little wry joke in there. So they get a brownie point for that. But it is very plausible that most or the most prominent lockdown skeptics hold that belief due to the properties that make their company unwelcome. They might hold their belief because they value the economy more than people's lives, or because they fail to care sufficiently about the deaths of older people, for example. Their belief is plausibly counterfactually dependent on their beliefs or values that Joe finds abhorrent in them. In other cases, a belief might be counterfactually dependent on other deplorable properties, epistemic vices, for example, epistemic arrogance manifesting in a failure to give proper regard to the opinions of experts, biases like the confirmation bias, or something more visceral. For example, a desire to signal contempt for liberals. Yes, that is what I was thinking. That it was political purposes. All of these are properties that make epistemic company very unwelcome to people like Joe. Remember, Joe was saying you don't want to do the lockdowns because more people are going to die from the economy failing. And they were just doing the math on how many deaths. They were trying to save lives. So they said, don't lock down the economy. We're going to have more people die due to bad economic problems than we are due to the pandemic. So they were trying to just do the math that way. But they didn't agree with we don't care about sick people. They can just go die because that's fucked up. Okay, why would the fact that the unwelcome company's belief is counterfactually dependent on the properties that make their company unwelcome provide higher order evidence against the belief? Belief formation and update is not transparent to agents like us. Our value and priors and traits are not easily open to inspection. When we recognize that a belief we share is in other agents counterfactually dependent on properties we find abhorrent in them, we have reason to suspect that it is the product of such properties in ourselves. Yeah. So you're saying if those people are fucked up and they believe this, maybe I have something messed up in myself. All right. Sounds kind of plausible. You can't trust yourself in this. See, this is where I go off the rails in epistemic peer disagreement. You stop trusting your own belief states at this point, and you think yourself unreliable. Well, are you? Maybe, but then you say, okay, maybe. That's the whole point of this argument. Okay, Joe may be concerned that she doesn't value older people as much as she should, or as much as she thought, that she doesn't give due weight to expert opinion, and so on. Her degree of justification can make a decisive difference here. If Joe has a right to high confidence that her belief is justified independently of these properties, she can shrug off the unwelcome company. That's me. I'm like, fuck you. Unless you have an argument, just the fact that you disagree or agree with me doesn't mean shit to me. Okay. With controversial beliefs, we often can't be very confident of facts like these, and the unwelcome company provides higher order evidence against our beliefs. Yeah. So if idiots are always agreeing with you, maybe you're an idiot. That's the thing. If like everyone's an asshole, maybe you're the asshole. Like it's not everyone. Maybe you're the asshole. It's the old, if it smells like shit everywhere you go, maybe you're the person who stepped in shit. Okay. However, the counterfactual dependence account is unable to explain all our cases. Consider drug. Donald Trump's more fervent supporters share Sheenan's belief, and their belief is counterfactually dependent on the very properties that make him abhorrent by her lights. Were they not fervent Trump supporters, they wouldn't believe that the drug can cure COVID. But Sheenan shouldn't be concerned by her unwelcome company because it does not provide her with good reason to suspect that her belief is the product of the properties that make her company unwelcome. Her unwelcome company endorsed the drug because Donald Trump does, and independent of any other properties it may or may not have. She, we're supposing, was unaware that Trump endorsed it when she formed her belief. Yeah, so if delusional people agree with their leader that something is good, then they're just, this is more like the blue sky case actually. They're just being irrational to begin with because they're just taking someone's word for it uncritically. Now, she's not actually disagreeing with Trump on this one. She's just saying, well, I agree on this, and then Trump happens to agree with me. Now, the Trump supporters are the people that she doesn't like in this example, and she's calling them delusional, but, like, that's not her problem because they're delusional like someone who calls the sky green when, they otherwise should be calling it blue. Okay. Counterfactual dependence is a good heuristic. Well, see, again, I think they're not even going to say that, though. Let's see. Maybe it is. But see, I think they should just say it's more like the blue sky case. But they're not. They're saying it's a heuristic. That's weird. See, this argument is, I think, not as good as it could be right here then. Maybe they'll say it below. Counterfactual dependence is a good heuristic for when unwelcome company provides us with evidence against a belief because a belief's dependence on the properties that make the company unwelcome is correlated with that belief expressing those properties. Cases like drugs show that this correlation sometimes fail to hold. Yeah, see, I'm not agreeing. I think they actually made a good argument. It's not just a heuristic. They should have doubled down and called this more like blue sky. Blue sky says, look, Osama bin Laden agrees with me that the sky is blue. That's not a problem, because if you disagreed, you'd be nuts. The problem with the Sheenan agreeing with the Trump supporters is not that they agree with her, it's that they are just agreeing with Trump. But, like, that doesn't matter, because that's like they would, if Trump said the sky was green or the sky's blue, they'd also agree with that. So they're using the same unreliable method, but it's really Trump that she has a beef with, but that's not why she's worried that Trump disagrees with her. Okay. So I think this argument is incorrectly argued. I still agree with the author on this topic, actually, though. It's like, yeah, if you are in bad company, you have to do something about it, but I mean, my general position is you have to give me an argument. The fact that you exist is not an argument. Okay, Sheenan seems to be in the clear because though her company's belief is counterfactually dependent on some of the properties that make them unwelcome, those properties are not manifest in the belief content. There's nothing intrinsic to the drug that makes it attractive to the Trump supporters after all, and had he endorsed a different one, they'd embrace that instead. Corey, on the other hand, should feel discomfited at finding that white nationalists share his belief that migrants commit more crimes than those born here because his company's belief might itself be an expression of their hateful views. But while such a match between belief content and the properties that make the content unwelcome is sufficient for the company to provide higher order evidence against the belief, its absence is not always exculpatory. Yeah, so it may actually be the case that this is the truth, but it may also be because those people are racist. Like, it's not, I don't think it actually is the truth. Migrants tend to commit fewer crimes. But, yeah. All right. Author says, consider this variant to drug. Neddy, who is new to the country, comes to believe that the drug is effective against COVID-19 on the basis of the testimony of Donald Trump, about whom she knows nothing other than that he is president. Later, she learns that this belief is predominantly held by people who acquired it from the same source as her, and that they regard the source as reliable only because they hold value she regards as reprehensible. Neddy's unwelcome company, unlike Sheenan's, is higher order evidence against her belief, but in neither case is there a match between the content of the belief and the properties that make their company unwelcome. The difference between the case lies in how they were acquired. Neddy's belief arises from the same root, coarsely individuated, as that of her unwelcome company, the testimony of the president, whereas Sheenan's arises independently of his testimony. This is a difference that makes all the difference. Neddy's unwelcome company is higher order evidence that her source is unreliable. Sheenan's belief is neither a match for the properties that make her company unwelcome, nor does it arise in the same way in her case as in her company's. It is therefore in the clear so far as the problem of unwelcome epistemic company is concerned. Yeah, well, this is mostly right. Again, I wouldn't have argued this the way they argued it. If you find out that a source is unreliable because all the people who believe that source, like say Donald Trump, all the Trump followers, and this is all hypothetical. Obviously we're beating up on Trump at this point. It's unnecessary. You could switch out Trump's name with Obama, Clinton, Bush, whatever. Because I mean, the president of the United States has to be at least somewhat reliable, and so it didn't seem like a bad idea, even if you end up not agreeing with that person later. But that's what's getting undermined here. Not your belief in the drug, it was the belief in the source, and then you have to say, well, the source is wrong, and therefore I have to go reevaluate the drug. So it's like there's one step removed here. So I think this could have been actually sharpened up, this paper. Like, yeah. Let's see how much more we got. Okay, you got to get all the way to 9. Fine. Okay. Our test for when unwelcome company provides us with a defeater, therefore needs to be disjunctive. Unwelcome company provides us with a defeater when A, there are grounds to suspect that our unwelcome company's belief expresses some of the very properties that make the company unwelcome, or B, there are grounds to suspect that our belief might have arisen via the same belief formation process as the belief of our shared company, and that process is unreliable. Yeah. So yeah, either you think that you're using their badness or that they are using some brokenness. So bad is like morally reprehensible, or broken is just unreliable. The or here is inclusive. Nothing prevents a belief from suffering both problems at once. Yeah, one's moral, one's like scientific. Disjunctive tests or accounts are often less satisfying than more unified cases, but this is a principal disjunction. Tindira says, American Democrat writes something after 2017, mentions Trump. Yeah. Like, who knows when this was written? Yeah, see, this is Levy 2020. So this is, a few years ago, when Trump was, So this was written in 2019. This is, during pandemic-y times. So, that's what happened. The two arms of the test point to two different ways in which our beliefs might go wrong. They might have a content we should find worrisome, or they might arise via a process that is unreliable. The second disjunct captures a feeder of a very familiar kind. It should be uncontroversial that if a belief arises from an unreliable process, then it is unjustified. The first disjunct requires a little discussion. Cases like refugees illustrate how we may be rightly concerned about unwelcome company, even in the absence of evidence that our belief has arisen via a shared unreliable mechanism. Yeah, so if you happen to agree with all the racists out there, and you're like, well, it came to this independently, you still might be a little worried about that. Like maybe your data was bad or something, who knows? Even if it was your research was good, maybe there's something else to it. Corey's belief may have arisen via root entirely independent of that giving rise to the same belief in the white nationalists. He should nevertheless be worried by recognition that the belief has a content that expresses the very properties that make his company so very unwelcome, that is, being racist. There are several different reasons why having such a content might constitute a defeater, or more weakly, a reason for suspicion. Corey's sharing a belief that, in their case, expresses the properties that make his company unwelcome might be evidence that the belief expresses or he is influenced by worrisome states of his, such as implicit bias, which interfere with his capacity to respond well to evidence. The match in content is evidence that though he doesn't satisfy B, his belief didn't arise via the same process as the belief of his unwelcome company. His evidence arose via a different unreliable process. You read Post-Truth by Lee McIntyre. He mentions Trump 221 times on 171 pages. Yeah, I mean, it's like shooting ducks in a barrel, like, or whatever. It's like really like low-hanging fruit to, if you're on like the non-Trump side of the world, just to, beat up on Trump. It's, hopefully we'll move on from Trump soon enough and it won't be a problem anymore. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case anytime soon. We're still going to have to deal with Trump for a little while at least, or for a long time in less good circumstances. But, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen for a long time, too. No, actually, that's not true. We're going to stop using him as an example. It'll just be like he'll still be an example, but it won't be used as much. Hopefully, there'll be better things to talk about in the future. Yeah. They're both old, and that's the point. There we go. Yeah, waiting for the older generation to die is not a good strategy for things, unfortunately. Okay, let's finish this up. The match in content might also provide Corey with a reason to suspect that his evidence is incomplete or biased. Perhaps the implicit racism of others or structural racism ensures that evidence in favor of the belief is highly salient or easily accessible, while evidence against it is pallid or missing. This is surely a realistic hypothesis. Cable news may tend to report a higher proportion of crimes by refugees than other groups, and rarely features refugees who are going about their lives peacefully and productively. More weakly still, the match in content may simply provide him with a reason to look more closely or to consider raising his standards for justification. That his belief shares a content that, in their case, expresses some of the same properties that makes his company unwelcome is surely a reason to look again, to seek further evidence, or to reassess the weight of the evidence he has. This is a test that can readily be applied should vegetarians be concerned to discover that they're in some of the worst epistemic company imaginable. It's very to see how vegetarianism can express properties that made Hitler's company so very unwelcome. It is, moreover, unlikely that any causal route to belief formation shared by vegetarians and by Hitler, perhaps a response to animal suffering, might have the epistemic properties that made him a highly unreliable epistemic agent. This belief is in the clear, and the disjunctive test explains why. Okay. I was kind of leaning towards liking this, and then at the end I realized why I don't like it. But let's get the review going. What do we have to say about this? For the few people who've stuck with me through a few of the failed streaming. How the hell do we actually judge? How do we actually know what the causal structure is of our beliefs? Do we actually know how our knowledge is formed here? Do we have access to understanding all these things? Do we have access to understanding how our opinions were formed as opposed to how racist opinions are formed? Usually not. We don't actually have this information. This thing right at the end, I know you can't really see it very much through the review screen, but usually we don't actually have access to this. We don't, unless if you have done scientific research on your own knowledge, do you actually know how this all works out? It's very hard. So it's like, oh yeah, those people disagree with me, and no, those people agree with me, and I don't like them, and I have to worry about what I did. Well, how do you know what you did, and how do you know what they did, and how do you match that up? Not so clear. Sure, we all understood the paper. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I thought it was actually pretty well written. All vegetarians are Hitler. There we go. But yeah. Therefore, all vegetarians are Hitler. We've got it. So I'm grumpy about this kind of epistemology, but all considering, this is not that bad. As far as epistemology goes, this was just giving a more, wanted to give a little rule that say, look, you don't have to worry about what other people think unless they think crappy things and you suspect that what they say and agree with you is because they were particularly crappy. If you have to worry that because you don't know yourself, you are so unsure of what you believe that some crappy person believing it and their crappiness is what makes them believe it, you think that might also be a problem with you because you are so unsure of yourself, then yes, you have a problem. But a lot of times you don't know what's going on. And so you might be like, oh, I'm not so sure about those eggs and the white supremacists. It's a little weird. So in the end, I feel like this is it's only in times when you were like not exactly sure about stuff. Like you might be leaning one way or the other and you're like, well, this is what all the racists think. You're like, well, maybe I should be more careful if I'm leaning in a direction or not, if this is all the racists think. But of course, it's like sometimes the sky's blue. You should just agree with them. The racists think the sky's blue too. They're not arguing that sort of thing. But this is not terrible. This is as far as epistemology goes, this is not that bad. I'm not going to be all that angry with it. I have my own problems with epistemology. So I'm going to see, what should I give this for a rating? Let's give this a nog knife. They were giving an analytic, so they're going to get, because they gave in the end, what'd I just do? Yeah, I scrolled unreliably. So in the end, I know you can't really see it, but they gave this A and B, the test. So this is in analytic philosophy. So they're going to get a nog knife. They're going to get a navel gaze because you'll only have to care about this if, you're going to get a nog navel on this. There. And they're going to get a vote yay. If you care about this shit, go right ahead. This ain't bad. So it's just a little bit of analytic philosophy. Talking about if you think this peer disagreement stuff is good, that's your problem, not mine. And also thinks it's a little navel gazing. It's yeah. The sad part about the book is it's part of MIT Press Essential Knowledge series. Oh dear. Well, not everything's gonna be gold. So yeah. So if you want to read this stuff, this is fine. Epistemology, peer disagreement stuff is stuff I don't like. I'm not that fussed. I thought this wasn't badly written. In the end, I thought some of the arguments could have been tightened up. I thought I was saying earlier, even though actually in the end it was okay because they gave the author made their case for their little their test. Either the thing that's bad about people is they've got moral problems or they're unreliable, and the fact that it is tied to their moral badness or their epistemic unreliability is why you have to be concerned. That's not very helpful really in the end. Telling you what, because you don't know how the racists think, you don't know how they reliably come up with stuff. This is what the problem was. But if you are unsure about stuff, maybe you should not be going the way the racists are if you already don't like them. And that's a very weak statement. But it's yeah, that's all they did here. They were just saying, that's my problem with this peer disagreement stuff. If you're very unsure about your ideas to begin with, then whatever. Yeah, so Tindarius also gave it a navel gazing and a yay. Okay, so what I figured. We're mostly in agreement here. Too bad about the internet cutting in and out. I'll give we've got a few more people, but I'll give you a few more seconds to get your review in if you so choose. But other than that, then we will go raid. So